Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today, we're going to be talking about Iron Maiden, and my special guest, you've seen him on here before, Mr. Nick Franco, part-time Sea of Tranquility contributor. He's also doing stuff for some other sites out there, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
CrypticRock.com, metalinjection.net, and I'm working on some of my own material as well.
There you go. So, Nick is a big Iron Maiden fan. And I've known Nick for a while, and we've often talked about Iron Maiden. So a couple months ago, he's like, hey, I really want to come back on your show. What kind of stuff you working on? You doing anything with Maiden? And I'm like, well, as a matter of fact, I've got a history of show that I'm going to be doing with Chris Allo, but I do need to do a top 10 song show. Awesome. Are you interested? And Nick was like, yeah, but only 10? So this was this was tough for me too. I'm a big Maiden fan too, and I, was going through all the albums and like listing all my favorite songs, and I'm like, how the hell am I going to condense this into 10? I did it, but it's one of those things where, and you'll probably agree with it, it's like my 10 choices that I'm going to talk about today could change next week or tomorrow. It's just that simple. And he walked in the door a little while ago. He goes, man, this was tough.
This was tough. It's like choosing between children, number one.
Yes.
And the interchangeable aspect of it, it does depend on your your proclivities that week. It's true. And Iron Maiden has been my favorite band in the world for 30 years. I think last year was 30 years. So it was very hard, but hopefully we came up with something good.
So did you, a lot of times when we do these bands that have these really long and rich discographies, a lot of fans are like, oh, there's no way I could do that because they have all these different eras. So here, we have the Diano era, which is short, and then the 80s era, and then, the era
Blaze.
Short with Blaze, and then the era 2 with Dickinson, where the band's music kind of took on a little bit of different flavor. Yeah. And so I tried not to think about that too much when I did this. It's almost hard not to, though.
Yeah, it's hard not to, but I think if you're really honest to the song itself,
it doesn't really matter. Right?
Yeah, there's an engine in Iron Maiden, and that engine is Steve Harris. But over the years, a lot of the guys have grown in their contributions. I think you can, with Maiden fans, and where we hope you viewers will, chime in and comments and such. Basically, people look at it as, what's the golden era of Iron Maiden? People include the Diano era. They're basically 79 to 88, up to and including Seventh Son, I would say, is where Iron Maiden could probably do no wrong. But within that, you have people who think that the guitar synths of the sound that they brought in Somewhere in Time and Seventh Son were like some kind of betrayal to heavy metal, which I completely
disagree
about. Yeah. And I also got into Maiden with Power Slave.
There was a difference between what Maiden was doing with the guitar synths than, like, say, what Priest was doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Somewhere in Time really deviates much from the flavor of their material leading up to that album. I don't think.
Yeah. No, without a doubt.
Other than the fact there's some different textures in there, right?
Right.
So.
And I think what a good discussion point is when Maiden, when Bruce exhausted his first run and those last, No Prayer for the Dying, Fear of the Dark, and then when he left, and then you had that clutch of albums without him, just 2 albums without him, there are some gems in those 2 albums, and and that's something that I think a lot of Maiden fans might not want to admit. Or, I don't know.
I'm not a big fan of those 2 albums. So.
I'm not, but there's some
I don't
gems.
think the songwriting is terrible. I just think Blaze was a horrible choice. He's not a bad singer,
but a bad choice.
He's a bad choice.
I didn't understand it then either. I was just happy to get some form of Iron Maiden back. Yeah. But if you look at it, which we'll discuss, there's some gems in that pile.
Cool. So Nick's going to kick us off with his number 10. We're going to do like we normally do. We'll go back and forth, leading up to our number 1s. Then we'll do some honorable mentions, and then we'll recap our top 10. And then we want to hear your top 10 in the comments and feedback. So, so Nick, what do you got for number 10?
All right. Well, in keeping with, I just want to prepare everybody that I don't believe that a band's most iconic songs are necessarily its best. Some of my choices might seem a little deep and a little out there, just like me. I'm going to go with Only the Good Die Young, the final song on the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son album. To me, it encapsulates how melodic they could be, how big and epic Bruce could sound, and like a sorcerer just telling a story. And I think that song captures so much of that album's atmosphere.
That's a great choice, and I'm surprised to hear it, and I'm happy to hear it at the same time. And again, we have not shared our choices, so I have no idea what he's picked, nor vice versa. So that's a really good one. And I like when like obscure stuff like that pops up on these type of lists. So remember, guys, these are our favorites.
Yeah,
these are not like the top 10 most popular, best-selling, or the ones they played live the most. Okay, these are the ones that speak to us the most. That's what you guys want to hear, right? We could just, it's not a lot of fun if we just reiterated, Run to the Hills and
Sure.
2 Minutes to Midnight. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So my number 10, if you would have asked me this 20 years ago, probably wouldn't have sat in my top 10, but it's when I started to see this band play this song live. And I think if you ask any Maiden fan, when they first heard it on the album, they were like, good song, but it's when you see them play it live that you're like, it's a Maiden classic, Fear of the Dark. Just for me, once I started experiencing them playing it live, it just did everything for me. And now it's like, for me, there's not a Maiden... if they didn't play Fear of the Dark live, it wouldn't be complete. And I've learned to really appreciate that song, as kind of cliche as it is, right?
I know one good friend of ours who hates that song, which we won't mention his name. Right. But I've argued with him about it. I think it's a fine song. It's a really good song. And it's made to be sung in a stadium. And
yeah, it is. It just gets you into it. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
And I just love it.
A real live one, the version of it where they perform it in Helsinki, and the way he interacts with the crowd.
Gem, right?
Yeah, it's a good song. It's probably the highlight of that album.
Yeah, not a great album.
Yeah. Afraid to Shoot Strangers and that one, I think, are probably the best.
Yeah. So
good.
Number 10 from Nick.
Right. 9.
Oh, 9, sorry.
I should sneak in another 10 because I really can't pick.
No cheating today.
No, I know. It's funny you threw out there. No, you know what? I'm going to go with it. We were talking about the newer era and the song "Sign of the Cross" which was on the X Factor. I thought about this because I'm like, people are going to yell at me to include a non-Bruce song in a top 10, but if you look at the song itself, I think Sign of the Cross is one of the most epic, underrated Maiden classics out there. It's got what makes them special. When they take a song, they start out here, and they build it up, and they build it up, and then there's some cool breakdowns and solos, and the song changes in the middle. That's Maiden. And I think, and here's the thing. When Blaze performs it on the record itself, the song itself is good. When Bruce performs it live, it raises the hair on your arms.
Yeah.
It's just.
I will agree with you. And I did not list, even in my honorable mentions, I didn't list anything from those two albums, and I completely forgot about that song. That is a great song.
Yeah.
Blaze notwithstanding.
Yeah.
So, good pick. Good song.
All right.
My number 9, the epic from Power Slave, Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Can't argue with that.
I mean, just how gargantuan was that when we first heard it, right?
Yeah.
And it still packs a punch today. And it's got all the Maiden elements that we love. And, Steve Harris pumping out that bass and the crushing riffs. And I don't know, just love it.
And it made it so that we could at least answer some poetry questions on Jeopardy once in a while. Made me feel like I knew what poetry was, which was a great thing about them. They brought you history, poetry in such a cool way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, lyrically, hard to top what Maiden was doing all throughout even now.
Yeah.
But just really intelligent lyrics, always. So
absolutely.
You're up. Number
8. The opening track to the wonderful Somewhere in Time album, Caught Somewhere in Time. If almost for no other reason than the way that song gets going 30 seconds in. I'm not going to hum a tune because it's going to sound stupid, but you know what I'm talking about. And that song just gets going, and it just encapsulates this sense. When I heard that at 12, 11, whatever it was, it gave me this feeling that I still get now. It's just so catchy and memorable, and just really encapsulates, I think, the height that Maiden reached in the 80s. Like everything culminating from their prior albums, to me, Somewhere in Time was the first time they took a breath since they got Bruce and began. They toured and made albums so hard.
Yeah.
They did the whole Live After Death thing that almost broke them up. And I feel like a lot of the songs, a lot of the atmosphere in Somewhere in Time is this, like, now we've been a band long enough, we're going to reflect back.
And they took extra time in the studio. I mean, it took a long time to make that album.
Yeah, they sat in some castle somewhere way out in somewhere in the middle of nowhere and made that album. And I think all of their experiences, everything just is encapsulated by the feeling on that album. It's an unforgettable song.
Yeah, I agree. That was in my early top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan, and that and another song, which I'm sure we'll talk about today, was also in my early top 10 because I dig that album a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really good. My number 8, going back to the first album, Phantom of the Opera.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing how great so many of the songs are on those first 2 albums. Really, I mean, really, we never heard anything like that, right? It's Maiden as a band are just really so original, and yeah, some of the twin guitar harmonies, a la Thin Lizzy and what have you. But I mean, little bits of Priest and Sabbath here and there. But for the most part, I mean, they had that energy, that like punky vibe almost, but the prog rock arrangements and.
It really wasn't nothing else. And I remember reading in their biography that I believe it was Dennis Stratton saying how hard that song was.
To play. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, very complex song.
But it doesn't sound like, to the listener, it sounds awesome.
It's very accessible.
Like going out of their way to be...
Right, but when you really listen to Phantom of the Opera, I mean, and it's worth noting how intricate Steve Harris's bass work all throughout their career, but especially those first couple albums. I mean, holy crap. I was listening to Killers this morning, and I was like, Jesus. Yeah. I mean, there's some insane bass work going on in that album. So, so that's my number 8, Phantom of the Opera.
Cool. Now my 7.
Yep.
I went with another deeper track that I feel like never gets enough respect. I've never heard them play it live. But when you go back to the Glorious Peace of Mind album, we got to give some love to Tame a Land.
Yeah.
That song, and I think I want to say, like, when I was a kid, I was definitely leaned more towards Trooper and Revelations and Still Life, which are awesome. But I think as I've gotten older, I've just grown an appreciation for To Tame a Land. The deep lyrics are great, but that song goes everywhere.
The atmosphere, and then the kind of the weaving melodies and what have you. It's just like
changes. It's just so dominant.
I am very certain that song hugely influenced a style of writing within the band that they really, I think, kind of took to the next level in the late 90s into the 2000s today. That whole kind of slow build that they did on that song, that a lot of their songs now do, that like kind of like, slow intro, little weaving guitar patterns, and then some
like
bass.
Sign of the Cross, like we were saying.
Exactly, yeah. And then, starting to build to a big climax. So,
because that was pre-Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
Yeah.
And might that have been their biggest epic to that point?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. So there you go. The first of their major epics they ever did. Man.
Yep. That's a good tune.
You could didn't age a day.
That's in here somewhere.
All right.
All right. So my number 7, going to the second album, Killers, Wrathchild. I mean, I bought Killers when it first came out, and I have a special place in my heart for that album and a lot of those songs, and I like so many of them, and putting together a list like that, I'm like, all right, well, which ones do I like the best from this album that would represent a top 10 for me? And that had to be on there. It's, again, that bass and those screaming lead guitars and, Deano's,
The Attitude. That was one of their punkiest songs.
Yeah, just like great stuff.
We're from the streets of England.
Yep.
We're still poor and angry.
Yep. And it's funny, if any of you read K.K. Downing's recent autobiography, he talks a lot about the early Maiden lineup and how when they took them out on tour with them, they were real, like, these guys were like, we're going to blow Priest off the stage every night. They had an arrogance about them and all that kind of stuff. And he talks about, Deano and a couple other guys in the band who would, like, sit there every night and watch Priest and say, oh, yeah, and it's just, and you listen to the music, though, you could just totally see that. They were young. They knew they were going to be big, and So
I wish I was around in those days.
Yeah,
but I wasn't. All right, number 6.
Number 6.
I'm staying on Peace of Mind with this. To me, the other greatest song on this album, which doesn't get aired out too much in their live set, "Where Eagles Dare," from the unrivaled drum intro to just the frenetic pace. This is, again, where the atmosphere was, dry, it was flying at night and bombing stuff, they just take you right to the atmosphere that they're trying to portray in the song. And that song, complex but fast, catchy but progressive.
Yeah.
I mean, to open an album, Jesus.
One of the best openers ever.
What a great song.
Yep. I'm not going to comment anymore on that because there's a reason for
Okay.
it. As you can imagine
what
why.
it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Good,
So,
good. Great minds.
So, my number 6 from the same album, The Trooper.
Oh, yeah.
Rampage and blistering tune. That's just never gets old.
I know.
Never gets old.
That was one of the songs that I'm like, how do I not put... Because I'll just say The Trooper's not in my top 10. But not because it's not the freaking greatest thing to hear live. It's so good. It never gets old.
Yep.
Video's great.
Yeah, it is. And I remember, because I saw them on that tour, and I remember thinking, man, this is like the best shit ever. Because they were playing like, at that time they were still playing. They played like half of Number of the Beast. They played half of the tunes from this album.
Yeah.
They played a whole handful from the first 2 albums. It's just like, man, is there a better live band out there than this? Right? It's just
to this
crazy.
day, that song when Bruce puts on the the British uniform and waves the
Flag. Yep. It's awesome. Right? Chills up your spine. So it's great. All right. Wow, we're up to number 5. All right, what do you got?
All right, I'm not babbling too much. Going one album back to the Number of the Beast album, to the recently, controversial Hallowed Be Thy Name.
Yeah.
I remember, just saying, like, are you kidding me with this band? Like, how good. Talk about starting out, like, slow and building to something so fast and crescendoed. And to this day, man, that's... When he comes in there with the yeahs, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Oh,
it's glorious, right?
It can almost bring tears to your eyes at the show. What a song.
No argument for me. And
what an atmosphere.
And again, we'll be talking about that again in a couple of minutes.
Okay. Nice.
All right, my number 5. A song that I think that it took me a long time to appreciate, and as the years have gone on, I love it more and more. And we're going back to the first album, Remember Tomorrow.
Ah. That's great.
I mean, that is probably
it's a unique song.
Deano's best moments there, right? Or close to it. And I love the creepy atmosphere in that song and how it just builds and builds and builds. And the ending is just incredible. And again, a song that I think as I've gotten older, I've appreciated more and more. And it's a classic for me.
I remember laying on the bed, looking up at the ceiling, listening to it when I was a teenager.
Yeah, and the riffs are great, I mean, down. That's just, I mean, come on, can't beat it. So that's my number 5.
Great choice.
Thank you.
All right. And my number 4 is staying on that album. It's what you just talked about, Phantom of the Opera.
There you go.
Which on some days, that's my favorite Iron Maiden song. And the next,
can't argue that.
The next few, I mean, it is freaking incredible.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that, it starts out fast and then when it gets melodic and everything changes and, you can like sort of nod your head to it. And then it breaks down to that wicked lead, right? I don't have a lot of the musical language, but that lead, oh my God, like, what are we doing here?
Crazy.
That is still to this day one of my favorite parts of any song.
It's
ever.
an incredible passage. And they were kids then, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Oh,
sick stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, Iron Maiden.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I love that tune.
Love that album.
Yeah, go back to Killers for me, for my number 4, Innocent Exile.
Yes, it's a very good song.
If Steve Harris doesn't like grab you at the beginning of that, I mean, that bass line is just absolutely ridiculous. And it's a great headbanging tune. It's got, love it.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. I mean, we could talk all day long about how great that album is. And
this is what drove me nuts. I mean, Killers didn't... There are no Killers songs in my top 10, and I feel like I'm betraying my maidenhood. But it's right there.
Well, you can love songs, but there's always, you love other stuff more. Just a little bit more. So that's what I always tell people. Like, when I put together these lists, and there's like one real great song that the masses love. And it's like, and I love it, but I may like 10 others more, and it may sit at number 11. 11 is good too. Right? Yeah. It's not a knock on the song. It's just, there's so many great tunes.
And because I'm an obsessive weirdo, I did like my own top 50, but...
He did. It's printed right here.
You don't want to see it. The highest ranked Killer song for me was Murders in the Rue Morgue. I love that song. I didn't catch
that was in my top 10 initially.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. Sorry, Murders. All right. Where are we at?
Number 3.
3. Okay. I toyed with this because part of me was like, I don't want to have anything like totally popular, but you can't ignore it. The Number of the Beast, the title track, is still one of the highlights of their live set. I try to put myself, like, by the time I got into Maiden, that was already a classic. I cannot imagine listening to that for the first time. Like, oh, this is what this band made. I would have died. I mean, how good does it get?
Yeah.
How good can it get? Like that symbol. That song is just, it is iconic, but it might be the best of their iconic songs. Of their, like, to me, just for my money.
It didn't make my list. It made my honorable mentions. But you know what it is? I think for me, I always, because I remember I bought that album when it came out. I was, a teenager when that came out. And I always loved that song, but there are other songs on that album that I just loved a lot more.
Yeah, like Total Eclipse. Where's that? I love that song. I didn't include it because it's not a regular album track.
Right, yeah, but that is a great... It's the same time period. Yeah, that's I totally forgot about that
Total
song.
Eclipse could be on the Killers. It sounds like it could be on the Killers.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So that's good choice. Good choice. All right, so my number 3 was your number, 6, I think?
Mm-hmm.
Where Eagles Dare.
Yeah.
Which I toyed with putting higher... Mm-hmm. Because it's my favorite song off that album, and for many, many years, Christ, maybe 2 decades, was my favorite Maiden song. And but the 2 that are going to beat it for me are just like Holy Grail tunes.
Yeah,
just there's just no way. But that's not to take anything away from Where Eagles Dare, which from the how about that drum statement, right, from Nico, his first time with the band, and like you said before, just the complicated arrangements. And the breakdown in the middle, and Bruce's vocals, and what a kick-ass album opener. Yeah. One of the best.
His vocal line in it, just, smelling outside the rumbling sound. I can't sing. Just forget it.
No. It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. So that's my number 3.
That's a great number 3.
So the top 2, here we go, guys.
I tell you, if I leave this room and come back, they could intersperse. Just keep that in mind.
I was going to say the same thing for mine.
Yeah, we're going to go with it. This next song may not be like it's not an epic, big long, but to me, From Somewhere in Time, Wasted Years, means more to me than any other Maiden song, just personally. But I was listening to it in the upcoming days to this, and I said, it is, it's not just some quick 5-minute pop song. It really, it's more complicated, I think, when you really listen to it. And Adrian Smith wrote that lead intro.
And it's awesome.
It's
so catchy.
I think he approached them with it and was like, hey, what do you think of this? And they made the song around it. And yeah, it's that looking back vibe. It's like, here we are. Even the video, I love the video. It goes back through all the Eddies from the beginning, and it just has that melodiousness and that catchiness that, to me, didn't sound commercial or anything. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Wasted Years.
That's my favorite song off that album, and I will tell you, it didn't make my top 10. It was in my top 10 originally, and when I got done with my top 10, that is the one song that really pained me that was left out. It's in my honorable mentions, but I was like, if I could have put like a 10.A or whatever, just to squeeze that in, I would have, because I just absolutely love that. And they played it the last time around when I saw them, and I was like, how cool is this, right? Yeah. A great song, a great pick. Great pick.
Thank you.
My top 2 could flip-flop any day of the week. And, is my number 2, do I like it more or less than my number 1? I don't know. The number 1 I'm going to go with because, A, it's always been one of my 2 or 3 favorite Maiden songs. And it was a song that a band I was in back in high school we used to play, and I loved playing it.
Cool. And
I think it's going to stay at my number 1 for this exercise. But like I said, next week, if you ask me, I could be like, well. So for today, my number 2 is Hallowed Be Thy Name. Again, a perfect metal song, right?
Yeah.
And you go see them play it live, and you just it's like one of the best experiences you could ever have happen to you in a concert setting. And it's one of 2 songs from that album that to me are like brothers and sisters. They go, and you probably know what the other one's going to be by now because I said that. But
that one, I don't know how it's there, but it's not. Drove myself nuts.
So yeah. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But Nick's going to do his number 1.
It's that time.
It's that time. Drum roll, please.
Yeah. And, again, whatever. We keep prefacing it by saying it could be something different. Well, this is what it is right now. Yeah. It's Power Slave. It's Power Slave. To me, I remember first hearing it. And it has the same effect on me now that it did when I was 11, whatever. What an atmosphere unto itself. I mean, there's just almost no other song like it. Famously, it was supposed to be 2 different songs, and Bruce and Steve came together on it, and that's why correct me if I'm wrong, fans, But I believe I read that when the softer part in the middle gets into that faster, which is one of the greatest transitions.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the reasons why the song is number one. It just, the solos that start out, calm and then get quick and get fast and aggressive, they melded it together, and I think they created their greatest song. I think Power Slave may be the greatest song that they wrote, which combines the speed and
it's got everything you love
harmonies
about Maiden, right? Yeah.
with the epic,
Yeah.
Like that, I think.
Yep.
For me.
I saw them at Radio City Music Hall on that tour.
You did?
Yeah. That was, with Queensryche opening up, and that was like the big production, right?
Oh,
and I remember them playing that, and I was like, holy crap, this is great, because they played all the great tunes from that album, and it was just so massive, because that was, Maiden at that time with that album really broke big.
And
that
top
was
of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's a great pick.
Wow, you saw that?
Yeah.
I was watching Bugs Bunny.
I was I think I was a freshman in college.
Oh.
Yep. And my buddy and I and my girlfriend at the time.
And yet I'm bald. And he has hair.
I have hair. Can I tell you? Good genes, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All right, my number one, if you haven't already guessed it by now, from the Number of the Beast, 22 Acacia Avenue. I have a long emotional attachment to that song, and I just love all the changes in the song, and I love the guitar solos in the song, and the lyrical content is awesome, and it's a great headbanger, and like I said, it's a tune that an old band that I was in back in high school used to play, and I loved playing
probably
it.
not an easy song to play.
No, it's got all sorts of weird changes and stuff. It was challenging to play, but a lot of fun, and I just still love it to death. So that's my number one. So Nick's guy, as he mentioned, I have a nice honorable mentions list, but you just draw out some titles. Some
well, I mean,
stuff that didn't make the top 10 that you would like to throw a shout out to. I see one right there that's in my list, which is
Well, I made a last minute switch. I had 2 Minutes to Midnight at 9 and Sign of the Cross at 11, but I just feel that strongly about Sign of the Cross. But 2 Minutes to Midnight is one of my favorite Maiden songs. I don't know, there's something about it. I got The Clairvoyant up pretty high, The Trooper, Around the Ancient Mariner. But what might come as a surprise to some, the song Sea of Madness.
That's a good tune. Yeah.
I felt there may only be 14 Maiden songs better than that. When you say it like that, it seems, something about Sea of Madness. It's just got this wonderful atmosphere. And then what you pointed out was Passchendaele.
I like Passchendaele.
Passchendaele almost made my top 10, but I couldn't displace. That's the thing, people often don't give credit to Maiden's latter day era, because really, how can you compare it to their classic era? How can you compare anything? But
it's not to take anything away from it.
No, yeah. If you could absolutely, if you don't mind, it'll only take a minute.
No, go right ahead. I was hoping you would do that, so I know exactly where you're going here.
Yeah, I made like a minor list of the songs that were made post classic era that are really good. Oh boy. Okay, so the following songs real quick. Sign of the Cross, Man on the Edge, The Klansman, Out of the Silent Planet, The Thin Line Between Love and Hate, Passchendaele, The Pilgrim, For the Greater Good of God, The Legacy, Speed of Light, and Empire of the Clouds. Fight Me, I Don't Care. It's amazing.
Yeah. I totally agree, and I'm going to throw a couple more.
Okay.
Brave New World.
Yeah.
Ghost of the Navigator.
Oh, Ghost of the Navigator.
Right? Dance of Death, the title track. Great song. The Alchemist.
Yeah.
How about the most recent album, If Eternity Should Fail? What a great tune that is.
Yeah.
The Red and the Black, The Book of Souls.
Speed of Light made my top 50.
There you go. Yes, I got El Dorado on mine.
Speed of Light reminds me more of the classic era than like The Wicker Man or Different World, like some of those.
But I love The Wicker Man. That's
I do too. Or Wildest Dreams. Like I thought those were good, but those felt like Maiden writing. Okay, let's write a song that we would write. But I feel like Speed of Light really just, I don't know. I was like, ooh, I feel the old days in that one. So those songs that we're listing, I mean, those are great songs.
They are.
The band still has it. And I hate these curmudgeons. Yeah, of course it's not 1983, but
there's no way it can be.
2019 feels pretty good.
For a bunch of guys in their early 60s, man.
Yeah.
That's, come on. That's a couple tunes neither one of us kind of pointed out that I want to throw out there. Ace is High. I'm a big fan of that. Yep. What else? The Prowler.
Love The Prowler.
Right? How about title track The Killers? Or Another Life?
Yes.
Jesus.
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary. Another one. Invaders.
Mm-hmm.
Flight of Icarus.
Oh,
which I was a huge fan of back like when that album first came out. I think over the years I've kind of tamed myself on it a little bit.
I think me too, yeah.
But I still dig it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Stranger in a Strange Land.
I have that at
you do?
18.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that song.
Alexander the Great?
I don't have that in there. I don't dislike it. I like it a lot, actually. I won't turn it off. It just wasn't one of my top favorites, but it's still a good song.
Evil That Men Do?
Love it. I love Seventh Son. I think Seventh Son is... I mean, a long time ago, I ranked Maiden albums, and I was basically like Power Slave and Somewhere in Time, then the Iron Maiden, and Seventh Son and A Matter of Life and Death. You know, I'm not afraid to pick from the new canon.
No, I'm not either. Like me, I really love the Brave New World album.
Yeah.
A lot. And I like that album you just mentioned. I liked Dance with Death. I liked the most recent one, Book of Souls, quite a bit too.
Me too.
You know, so
also the Nomad and Mercenary off of Brave New World to me are really good.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong album.
Yeah,
top to bottom.
What's your least favorite Maiden album?
Probably No Prayer for the Dying.
You like it?
Well,
less
no.
than
I'm sorry.
11?
I'm sorry. No. Okay. I almost like always never count those.
I know.
Yeah, those two definitely.
Okay. But then without those, it would be No Prayer.
The non-Blaze albums, probably No Prayer for the Dying. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's just there's not a lot of great tunes on there.
No, that they were running out of steam.
Yeah.
A little bit right there, I think.
And and I think Tail Gun is a good tune. You know,
I like Running Silent, Running Deep.
Yeah,
I like it. And I like Public Enemy #1 and Holy Smoke. I think those are great songs, just not compared to the rest.
Yeah, Holy Smoke is fun. Yeah,
yeah, it's like.
And Fear of the Dark is okay too. That's probably those two albums are like not great, but they have their share of decent tunes.
Yeah, they were okay. You know,
I think they needed a break at that point. That you could tell that the whole machine was just kind of coming to
and Bruce really was thinking about it. He wanted to get into his solo career, and Adrian left. But
we should probably mention. I mean, we're not going to go into it obviously, but there's a couple Dickinson solo albums that are killer.
Damn right. Chemical Wedding, Accident of Birth.
Hell yeah.
Even Tear in Your Souls? The last one he made?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
There's some good tunes on those albums.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Yeah.
So,
And he flies planes.
Yes. All right, real quick before we go, let's rattle off our top 10, starting at number 1 going back. So for me, 22 Acacia Avenue. Number 2, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Number 3, Where Eagles Dare. Number 4, Innocent Exile. Number 5, Remember Tomorrow. Number 6, The Trooper. Number 7, Wrathchild. Number 8, Phantom of the Opera. Number 9, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Number 10, Fear of the Dark. I turn it over to Nick.
Number 1, Power Slave. Number 2, Wasted Years. Number 3, Number of the Beast. Number 4, Phantom of the Opera. Number 5, Hallowed Be Thy Name. Number 6, Where Eagles Dare. Number 7, To Tame a Land. Number 8, Caught Somewhere in Time. Number 9, Sign of the Cross. And number 10, Only the Good Die Young. All the evil seem to live forever.
There we have it. So that's Iron Maiden Top 10, courtesy of Nick Franco and myself. Make sure you visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org or check us out on Facebook every day. We got polls running all the time. Check us out on Twitter as well. And come here to YouTube as often as possible because we got shit happening all week long. So for Nick Franco, I am Pete Pardo. Want this guy to come back? We want him to come back.
Yeah, tell us how terrible we were.
We'll think of some, I was thinking about maybe you and I doing a Morpheus show one of these days. I know you'd be into that, right? So,
absolutely.
So anyway, guys, take care. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Goodbye.